Hello everybody and welcome to episode 3 of Supersymmetry. How's everyone doing? I'm glad to be back in this world. So a couple of things have happened since last episode. I just added these 3 steam machines: the steam mixer, steam compressor and steam extractor. I'm going to end up using these things today, which is the reason why I made them off camera, and they're not too difficult to make. And secondly, I did a little bit of mining for some copper since my copper supplies were dwindling a little bit, and the audio issues should be fixed today, I hope. Yeah, the audio issues they've been a bit of a nightmare recently, but it should be fixed. Hopefully the game audio, well, all of the audio will be a lot louder, and you'll actually be able to control how loud it is on everyone's end instead of just my end, if that makes sense. Anyway, back to this episode. I'm in the mood to set up some crop management because, well, I'm currently eating berries and what are these? Olives. Sliced olives are the only food which I currently have. And I've stumbled across beans on toast, which is possible, and it covers, if I zoom in, fruit, protein and grain, which is really good for, well, it's for 3 of these food categories. So that's what I want to set up, some crop farming. But before I can do that, I need to actually, well, I need to build where the crops are going to end up going, and I need to also get greenhouse glass. More on that once I've got this place built. So here's a little time lapse for me hopefully building a lovely greenhouse and a staircase coming from this base all the way to the surface. Oh wow, that was a lot of building, I have to say. But the result of this, oh yeah, these stairs are a little bit buggy. Reloading fixes the issue. The result of this though is a really nice way to get to the surface. And I'm embarrassed to say that this thing, I mean, making this and designing this took, I want to say, about 3 hours of real life time of just playing with the building, just to work out how I was actually going to build this tunnel. But after all, I'm quite happy with it. It looks really cool. I've also added over here a small expansion, which is going to house some of the steam multi-blocks which I have to build. More specifically, the steam baking oven, which is this multi-block, the steam grinder, and the steam oven. These are all going to be important things moving forward and eventually into low voltage. But for now, I'm just going to work on making this steam baking oven. Since, well, remember the first time I tried to make the steam baking oven? Well, I got stuck because of nickel. And in this version of Supersymmetry, at least, I've already found nickel, and I found it in the overworld, and I didn't have to go to the nether to get this. It's as easy as throwing pentlandite dust inside the blast furnace with some coal coke. Yeah, doing this will produce pure nickel, and while that's smelting, I'm also going to gather some of these plant fibers. And these mud balls are easy enough to find. They are primarily found inside swamp type biomes, like the lush swamp from Biomes There Plenty. Mixing the mud ball with fine piles of sand, straw and clay will produce mud balls. Mud brick mix, correction. And the quest. I try to follow along with the quests now. Oh yeah, and this gives you an idea on just how much copper I've been smelting to try and keep up with how much I'm ending up using. Yeah, that's an insane amount of copper now. Hopefully, how much is that? Nearly 2,000 copper ingots. I'm sure I will be able to use all of them. Right, 37 reinforced adobe bricks is required for this. Yes, 37, because one of them is actually used to make this controller. Speaking of, I can now make the steam baking oven. Yep, the one thing which I couldn't make because of the nether requirement for this. Right, and to set up this multi-block, it is a 4x4x3. Controller has to be on the left side. It can't be in the center. Something which I usually do for the blast furnaces and any multi-block, I always do input on the right, then output for the left. For some reason, that's what I default to. Is it? Wait, no, hold on. Never mind, disregard what I said. It's the opposite. I do input on the left, output on the right. Yeah, I was just thinking about how I actually do that for a second, and I do it, input on the left, output on the right, not the other way around. Okay, well, judging by that, it has formed. Lovely. Look at this multi-block GUI. That's a nice GUI, isn't it? I'm honestly far too excited to be able to try out this steam baking oven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and fish for some fish. And I'm going to actually smelt that in the baking oven because it can't be smelted in the furnace. Plus, I'm quite low on 3 other things, so protein, grain, and dairy. So actually having some fish will be good for the food types, which I currently don't have. Yeah, so just placing the raw fish and raw salmon inside this crate will automatically input. 20 seconds. That's not too bad considering this is also running off of steam. Cooked salmon. Honestly, this thing is so cool for cooking food items. Yeah, I actually really like this one compared to the regular baking oven. Just because I only need to put in the required smelting item. I don't need to supply fuel apart from steam. So yeah, this is a win for me, and I get to enjoy one of these lovely fish to hopefully fill up my protein bar. That was messy. Yeah, very happy with that. Did that actually just strike right next to me as I was collecting some sand? What are the chances? What are the chances of that actually happening and me catching it on camera? That's crazy. And after a whole lot of prep work, I'm finally ready to actually make this greenhouse, or at least the greenhouse glass. Let's take care of that first. Yes, after a lot of prep work, in between washing ores and the mining sand, which you saw with the lightning strike, I can now make cyan dye, which is required to make this greenhouse glass. And I'm also aiming to go big for this. So instead of making a little, I'm aiming for 4 stacks of greenhouse glass. Hence why I went and mined just a ridiculous amount of sand. Yeah, and this is 16 stacks of glass after waiting an eternity for this to smelt inside the alloy smelter. And for anyone who was wondering how long it actually took to smelt all of this glass, I just did the math and it was 3.5 hours to wait for all of this glass to smelt. So yeah, that's the power of this being a server. So I let the alloy smelter run, and while I was waiting for it, I went and did something else. Yeah, I can now make, refreshing the inventory, 4 stacks of greenhouse glass. Yeah, that's better. I ran out of logs inside the crafting. All right, I'm ready to build the greenhouse now. Oh no, baby zombie. If this hits me. It's got full chainmail. Oh, that was a lot of damage. I dropped a seed. Yeah, zombies in this are seriously no joke. They do a lot of damage. Honestly, I had a super fun time building this. Yeah, this is much better looking compared to the greenhouse which I built in season 1. It looks kind of like a greenhouse. It's a proper room, and it's got glass. And I'm going to jump straight into using it by planting some crops. And I have planned out 3 crop plots here. First one is going to be seeds, which will start producing wheat for me. And the second 2 are going to be beans and tomatoes. And because of the greenhouse glass, it basically means that I can grow crops all seasons, I think. Because you can see a tooltip here, this only grows in spring, summer, or autumn seasons, the seeds. The greenhouse glass just makes it so that I can grow them every season. I believe that's what it means. And these undetermined GTFO seeds, just placing them in a crafting grid will convert them into the seeds which I actually need. Getting some crops going. And the goal for this is to make baked beans on toast. Because I think that's the easiest to make actually out of all of the food sources I can currently make. I should actually double check it. I think it's the least amount of crops for the most amount of food and saturation. And like I said in the last episode, it covers grain, protein, and vegetable, I believe. Never mind, it's fruit, protein, and grain it covers. So it's 3 different food categories. And after realizing that I can't make baked beans on toast, I'm going to take care of something which I can actually do. So as I'm moving closer and closer to low voltage, I'm going to optimize some of these steam machines. And by that, I mean I'm going to upgrade these to high pressure. Doing this will effectively remove the speed penalty, which I get from using the regular low pressure steam machines. Yeah, so for instance, this tin alloy, it should take 5 seconds. Before this used to take 10 seconds in the low pressure steam machines. But for this one, it now takes 5 and uses twice the amount of steam. So I think this is going to be a worthwhile investment as I get closer into low voltage. And while I'm in the mood of upgrading machines, I'm also going to pick up one of these steam grinders and the steam smelters, since these are also going to be very important in at least doubling the ore products, since the steam grinder can do 8 parallel at once, and so can the steam oven. That's the steam grinder quest. Steam oven. Yeah, there's 2 quests for them. Now let us relax and build 2 more multi-blocks, the steam grinder and the steam oven. After a little bit of building, this is the final design for this room. The steam grinder to my right, the steam oven to my left. And like I said, this is going to be invaluable to progress further. So it's 30 seconds on the steam grinder displaying from the one probe. And if I do the math on how long that takes divided by how many parallels this runs, it's currently 8 parallel it can run. That equates to 1 ore every 3.75 seconds, compared to the steam macerator. Even the high pressure one would be 1 ore every 20 seconds, so this is way superior. And the same for this steam oven. Instead of having to keep restocking furnaces, it's 10 seconds, smelts 8 at a time. Oh, it's beautiful. These are going to be really good. And look at the cool shaders on them. They actually glow. I'm probably going to end up having a lot of steam grinders and steam ovens, but for now, them ones are just going to be for on-demand crafting. I'm now at a pretty good stage in the game. I'm getting close to a low voltage, but there's still a couple of things which I'd like to set up. One of them being rubber production. Since all of the LV machines require coated cables, and the only way to get rubber in this is through the coagulation tank and what's the other thing? Produce latex. The latex collector, yeah, that's it. So there's a couple of things which I need to get. I'm still crafting up the coagulation tanks. And I also want to say that this coke oven it's brilliant. I think I've said that before actually. Yeah, I'm finding this coke oven being automated the way it is very, very useful for producing creosote oil, because I'm actually in need for the creosote oil. So yeah, things are going smoothly. So the first machine which needs to be set up inside this rubber chain is this coagulation tank and one of these steam latex collectors. That should be formed. Placing an iron rod in here will allow this to actually start producing latex dust. But I need to actually supply this with liquid latex before I can produce latex dust. And for this latex collector to actually start working, I first need to supply it with a bucket of water, just so that there's water in this inventory and it's not going to consume this once it's in there. After placing one of these rubber wood logs on the latex collector, this now can produce latex for me. And I'm going to have to first do this manually before I can actually automate this. But I can put the latex manually in the coagulation tank, and this will start producing latex dust. And finally, placing the latex dust in the vulcanization press, along with one of these press shapes and sulfur dust, will allow me to produce rubber sheets. And then 40 seconds later, this should produce 4 rubber plates, or rubber sheets. Well, I'm now ready to set up the automation for the coagulation tank. Firstly, I need to make a ULV input hatch and a ULV output bus for this coagulation tank, so that I can import fluids and output items. Hatches and buses can be placed anywhere on this coagulation tank. Lovely, and this one is outputting the latex dust. And for the latex collector, I'm going to use one of these steam pumps to actually start extracting fluids. Which should mean that this is crafting. And because of the size of the coagulation tank, as you just saw, this can process 4 in parallel. So I'm getting 4 latex dust every time. This actually can do 4 crafts at once. The output for this is going to go straight into one of these drills. This is so that automating this vulcanizing press isn't going to be a nightmare. If you don't know, in this version of GregTech, limiting items is only unlocked when I get access to the robot arms from GregTech. So what that means is I'm basically locked behind low voltage again. Yay! But after all, this is going to be passive latex dust since this is a server. So as long as I can supply sulfur to this vulcanizing press, I will have rubber. And on that note, I think this is a good time to wrap up the episode. I've still got a lot more to do. Hopefully next episode though, I can't predict the future, but I can at least hope that I might get some low voltage machines by then. Hopefully, we'll see. So, as always, I hope you've all thoroughly enjoyed today's episode as much as I've enjoyed making it. And I hope to see you all again some other time.